Hello everyone, it's Jean from the Inky Studio, and as promised, I'm coming back to finish up the construction of this journal. I'll list down below what we've done, the previous things we've done, that video, and so in this one we're going to be putting together the cover and putting the signatures inside the cover and finishing out some of the things, the inside of the papers that go inside the covers. So anyways, thank you so much for joining me again, and we will get started with that. And please, I would appreciate if you could just give me a thumbs up. That would help me out an awful lot. And these two videos are very detailed, so they're not short. They're a little on the long side, but I have put chapters to them to hopefully help you get to a point where things you would like to see done. And yeah, so let's get started with this. So that's going to be the spine. And we are going to cover the spine with this fabric. And like I say, this is an upholstery heavy fabric. And this is still 4 inches wide. Now I want this fabric to be wider than my spine. I want both sides to be wider. Okay, I want my sew-in, my the signatures, the fabric that's attached to my signature, I want it to be wider than the cardboard, and I'd like the other fabric to be wider. And the reason being, and you'll see as we go along, it just makes it a little less bulky. But I'll show you that as we progress here. But just want it to be a little longer. And what I'm doing now is I really do want this to show. I want the cover to go on the top of all this. Tool, it's a silicone brush, so this is like a flat brush with made out of silicone, which I saw somebody use, and I thought, oh, this is just perfect for fabric tack. And that is, it can, you can flatten out the fabric tack, because sometimes it just works better if you flatten out or spread out the fabric tack. It isn't quite as messy on fabric, or it doesn't, put lumps and bumps on it. And you can do that, and you can just wipe it off then when you get done. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do the whole spine. Anyways, there we go, and we're going to put this right in the middle of our spine fabric. And it takes a little while for it to soak into and grab the fabric. All right, so that's good, and I'm just going to give that a little working. So now we have a nice spine and fabric all set together. Okay, I'm making sure that my edges are glued, and places where they might not be glued all the way, I'm just going to come in here with a little bit of that. There we go. There. So now the spine is looking good. Now we're going to work on, and then eventually you just peel off the fabric tack. Now we're going to attach the spine, or covers to the spine. And I guess it doesn't matter, they both look the same. And I'm going to place my cover. I'm not placing it right at the fold. I'm not placing it there. I'm placing it a little bit past that fold. So if you can see, the fold is right along there. There's just a little gap. Okay, just a tiny gap there, if you can see that. All right, and I'm going to clip it like this so that my gap is even, making sure that that is even all the way down. Yep, it's pretty good there. Let me just come across a tiny bit. That's about right. All right, And so the border, or the place I want to eventually put my glue down, is right along here. And this is just to give me a sense of what actually needs to be glued. It's like I need to put my glue down. If I go past the line, that's great. I just want to make sure that I go at least up to the line. And a little past is fine. That just kind of gives me an eyeball of where to place my glue, if you can kind of see that line down there. And I'm going to use Fabri-Tac for this as well. And we're just going to kind of put it on here. I'm going to come down that line there a little bit. Just want to make sure that that, you know, gets glued out there to the end. Okay. Alrighty. Now let me think about this. This is going on like that. Okay. There we go. Well, probably the easiest thing to do would be this way. Now, Fabri-Tac does give you a little bit of time to wiggle it around a bit, so I'm just placing it there. Not super hard, kind of lining it up with the line I had down there in the beginning. All right, so it's like at the edge of that. I can check this out right here, and I can, you know, wiggle it around so I have like an even amount of room there on both sides. All right. Okay. So now we're just going to press it in there. Now this will probably need to sit, you know, for 5-10 minutes, just to make sure that it has caught in there very well. And I will put clamps down. I wish I had some clamps. I need to go get some big clamps, really big ones. All I have are these bolt clips, which they're better than nothing, but I would really like to get some really bigger clips and put in there. But I'm going to do this, and I'm going to set it aside, and I'm going to let it, you know, soak in for a good 5 minutes. I ended up putting a heavy book on this, as well as the clamps, and let it set for about a good 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more. And that's on there nicely. So we're going to put on the back cover. I did want to mention, I don't know if I did before, but when I line this up, when I line the cover up, I want to make sure that I am in line with the spine. You know, the spine and the covers are both in alignment. So I feel down here to make sure that, you know, it's all even. just kind of be, you know, cognizant of the fact that this needs to be even. And I went ahead and I, you know, put it where I wanted. Want it to be a little bit beyond that fold. I have taken my pencil, made that line so that I have a good idea of how, at least how far I need to put the glue down. I'm going to make sure that my spine and cover are in alignment on each side there. Just going to briefly put it down like this and then turn it over and bend it and just see, you know, if I have to scoot around and, you know, reposition it a little bit, which is nice with Fabri-Tac. You got that little bit of time, a little window, and that looks just about where it needs to be, right about there. And then I'm going to clamp these two ends. Let's see, make sure I got the, yeah, everything's in line. Clamp these two ends, and then I'm going to set something heavy on top of here, some heavy books, and then I'm going to go ahead and let that dry. All right, so it's all perfectly dried, or at least, you know, dry enough to be able to work with it. And that's all sitting in there nicely, and you can see why I painted all that cardboard to kind of match the edge of my cover, because you do see it in this particular case. Now, some books aren't quite this thick, though. I have to say these covers are pretty thick for this particular book. Anyway, so now we're going to be working on the inside of it, and we are going to be laying paper here over all this mess, so you won't be seeing all this when we're done. The reason why I wanted the fabric longer or wider than the spine is because this is bulky. There's a bit of a bulk here, right? And it just sort of eases that, so when you glue paper down, you won't have this really big cliff to fall off of. You've got it more graduated or graded, or I don't know what the word is. So what I'd like to do here is we have this cardboard, and you know, I don't know, just to hide that up. And this is just for visual. It's not structural at all. This is just a sort of a visual to kind of like try to hide that bit of cardboard there. I'm going to glue a strip. I have here some muslin I've torn, but you can use, I've used cheesecloth before. I use that, you know, quite a bit. That does a pretty decent job of it. You could use lace, whatever is pleasing to you, and we're just going to glue that down. And for that I'm going to use the glitter glue. That, and it's going to, as you can see, a few little wispies here beyond that fabric that's on the spine. It's just a little bit more just sort of showing up there, so that when you look down inside that piece of cardboard, I know, I don't know how to, trying to get you a visual on that, a little difficult, but it hides that cardboard in there. And we'll just cut that off like that. Okay, kind of glue down any part that's up. And all right, so that's down there nicely. Okay, that's just to hide that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to work on gluing in the signatures. Okay. Now here again, I'm going to trim this down. Now I made them both 4 inches wide, and having more than I need was better than having less, you know. So I really just made it super wide, and it turned out really well for me. But I'm going to trim these down just a little bit so that when this gets fitted in here, it will end, the end of this, the edge of this fabric here is going to be between these two places there. So that'll just kind of give it a little bit more of a step down. Just shave it off. Ideally, maybe this should have been even wider to even go further. Would have been a lot less hassle if I'd made this even wider than the spine fabric, if I'd made this like 5 inches. So you can't overdo this part, because you can always cut it off, right? So I'm going to just going to trim off just a little bit of that. All right, so the first place we're going to glue is in between the two fold lines. There's a fold line here and a fold line here. So the first part we're going to do is we're going to glue in just the spine itself. So we'll put down our glue here. So now we're going to take our spine and we're going to set it right there. And so I'm going to put this down in the middle of that area. Okay. And I'm going to bring up the sides so that I know that what's having contact is just where the signatures are at. And now I'm going to take my rubber band off, and I'm going to go down in between the signatures, and I'm going to start, let's see here, dun, 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 dun. Oh, where's the in between signature? I'm going to start pressing down. Here we go. This is in between the signatures. I'm going to start pressing down in that area, in between each one. so that I can make sure the contact with the glue is very direct. Alright, that's set in there nicely. And now I'm going to let that set for a little while, just so it makes good contact, and so that when we start doing the other part, it won't tear away so easily. So I'm going to let that set for like 5 or 10 minutes. So I did have to let this set to dry, probably a good half hour, 45 minutes, for it to really catch well. And it'll have to be overnight before it's fully cured, but it's enough to go on to the next process, so that I needed it to attach enough so it wouldn't be lifting for me. And so that's why I waited that long. And now we're going to get in here. We're going to now glue down these flaps here. And just simply put in the glue here. And I'm getting into the edge, inside, coming out, and getting all this area well glued with the Fabri-Tac. And here I don't really care if it seeps out, because it's all going to be covered anyways. Alright. Might just go over just to make sure that the whole area has got a good coverage of glue on it. Alrighty. And we're going to put that down. And then after we press it down well here, I'm going to also take my burnishing tool and press it kind of like into that crease there. There's a crease, the fold there. I am just pressing it down really well in there and then finishing it out like so. Now I'm going to let this dry. Now a lot of this this actually got closer to the other fabric than I wanted, but I think it would be fine. This is a lot of waiting to dry and everything, because it's a large book and it's heavy, and you know the signatures are heavy, and easily the weight will pull it apart and such. So I am waiting in between these steps for it to dry, you know, fairly well. And it's taking, you know, a little time with that. Now I'm going to leave it like this, and I'm going to place an item here. I should have had that a little bit more handy. What did I do? Here it is. I knew I had it somewhere. I'm going to place this here, and I'm going to place something over here on this side, just to make sure. Well, that's the wrong one, isn't it? It was this side that got glued. So this is the side that's glued. This is not glued yet, but I'm still going to put this like that. And then I'm going to put this one here, standing up a little bit. And going to let it set like this for a while. And there we go. Just let that set, and then let that dry. Probably another half hour to get that so it won't be as easily moved. Okay, that's been setting there for about a half hour, and it's looking pretty dry there. It's attached pretty well. It's a little closer to the edge. The fabrics are a little closer than I wanted them to be, but it's there. It's good. Now when I let it dry at an angle, so that the glued one is a little bit, it's not totally flat, it's not totally closed, it's a little bit at an angle there. And that's how I glued them. And let me just kind of work it out here. So I'm going to let the bulk here rest against me as I press down inside here, making sure that it has contact in that joint or in that fold line. and getting all the rest of this down here, like so. With my two books or something on each side. They should be a little taller than this. I'll probably get a couple more books here to build this up. But I'm going to let it set like this overnight, and then the glue should cure really well. So now we come to putting the papers on the inside of the covers to cover up all of this that's here. And before I put the paper down, though, I noticed that there is this ridge, and unfortunately I did not cut it back enough so that they would not, so the two fabrics would not meet there. I was try to cut this back so it would be more graded as it went that way, but it just didn't happen that way. So what I'm going to do to fix that is I'm going to put down, and I have what gaffer's tape, book tape, things that they use to repair books with, and I'm going to put that down. And it's pretty heavy. Yeah, it's pretty heavy tape, but it's flexible. It's almost like a fabric itself, really. Now I'm going to put some glue down there as well, just because I really want that to hold well. And so I'm just going to put a little bit of glue down that area so that it super hold. And I've cut the tape so that it comes below. If you'll notice, it's well within that border there, because I don't want it to be above that border that's in the book. I want it to be below that a little bit. So I'm just going to put that down, and that will help with that ridge a little bit, make it a little less noticeable, hopefully. This is what we're hoping for. Okay, now I've cut a piece of paper, and I'm using a lightweight cardstock, and I think I always use the Epson presentation paper, about 40, I think it's 44 pounds. So, but anything like that, and it is like a real heavy duty scrapbook paper, anything like that would be really good. I wouldn't use too thin of a paper here because we're covering up so much bulk in there. And I cut it down so that that little border, you can see that border in there. So it's just like 1/8 of an inch smaller than the inside cover. So for this glue, for the glue that I'm going to be using, I'm going to use PVA glue. I just got this a while ago, just like like a few days ago, and I used it for the inside cover on the back, and I really liked it a lot. Liked how it glued down. It glued down very evenly, and it held very well. So I'm going to use this. This might be my new glue for gluing inside book covers like that. I really did like that. So I'm just going to put some out here along the perimeter, getting pretty close to the edge, and put down a little pile there. And I'm going to take a brush, and now I'm going to brush it out. Sometimes we get into a glue rut, right? And we just use the same glue over and over, and then we don't always know the possibilities out there. So now I've gotten that down, and I'm going to align it up there at the top a little bit, kind of making sure. So I really want to make sure that the top and this side is pretty even, and the rest of it will pretty much fall into place. Now you don't have a lot of wiggle room like you do with Fabri-Tac, and that's the only thing that you kind of need to know what you're doing, or where you want it to be. I did find that out, that I'm taking my brayer and I'm just going to get in here. Make sure. Now I did cut this piece. I did not want this paper to cover and go over the seam or the bending part here. I did not, I wanted it to end right before it starts to bend. And that's what I did. And now I do see a little bit here. Perhaps I should get in with a little bit of glue, just a little bit of glitter glue. It wasn't too bad, it was just off a little bit. So I just go around and I just check to see if I failed to have glue in some places. Okay, but that seems to be about right. And now I'm going to put something heavy on this, and I'm going to let it dry. So it is done as far as structurally. On the inside, I've put all the ephemera back in, and yeah, it's a little chunky. Yes, it is. I think that's just the nature of junk journals. All the signatures fit nicely in the spine, but once I start putting everything in it, it did get a little alligator mouth. But I am going to, the closure for this is going to be a tie, a burlap tie. That's going to be the closure, and I think that's the best way to do this, because this may get even thicker when somebody starts actually, journaling in it and everything. So that's what I'm going to do with that. Now all I have to do is the cover, and I'm kind of, auditioning different things that I might want to do. And actually it's kind of hard to do the cover because I want to honor all of her work in here as well. So I decided that maybe, and this is the maybe, I might take one of her drawings, and I do want this strip of brown to show over there on the side, and cut it down, and then take this page here, and she's got nature notes written out, and I thought, well, I'll just take a strip of that lettering, and we'll just put that down at the bottom somehow, maybe mount it on a backing or whatever. And then up here I would put a metal book plate, probably with the word journal in it, but it can be taken in and out. So that's kind of my thought process for this. So we'll just we'll have to see what I end up doing. I think that's what it's going to be. And yeah, so I also was asked the question if I'm going to offer this in my shop, and I'm 75% sure I am going to do it. Yeah, I think I will. And I know it's kind of hard after this was a lot of work, let me tell you. It really was. It's a large journal. It's got all of her, if I did not have another book, a personal book of her stuff, I wouldn't be able to sell it because I would want to keep it. But I do have another book, and I can make myself something else if I wanted to. I'm just, thinking about it. But more than likely, I will offer this for sale. And so I'll be finishing up the cover, and I will do a flip through once I get that done, and we'll know more about that. Oh, and also what I did is I took the spine from the book, from the original book, and I glued that on this spine. So I really liked the way it looked. I thought, oh, that looks so nice. So yeah, that pretty gold lettering and everything. I might have to do something. I even thought about putting a little gold over here. I don't know. We'll just have to see how that plays out. So I am going to start a new project, and I am leaning towards doing a sewing journal. I am leaning towards that. I just got a whole bunch of vintage ephemera, sewing ephemera, and I think I'm going to be doing that. So anyways, thank you so much, and we will be talking to you soon. Bye-bye.